Hi, I'm Dave Roberts and this is Angling Escapades. Hello and welcome to Angling Escapades, and you join me today on the banks of the River Lugg. As you can see, this wonderfully little intimate river. This is proper boys' own stuff for me. This is my childhood basically. I lived about less than a mile from where we're stood now. It was the first place where my parents would let me come fishing on my own. 12 years old, I used to walk across here on a Sunday morning with all my gear. I used to fish this wonderful river. It's obviously a tributary of the Wye, runs into the Wye just below Morderford, and to be honest, I just don't get down here as much as I used to, as much as I'd like to even. It's just got so many memories for me, this river, and you know, you've got the usual species in here: chub, barbel, dace, not so many roach, not so many perch, pike, salmon, trout, not many salmon in all beds, but there's trout all through here, grayling. And it's a place I used to come in the summer evenings. It's actually where I caught my first barbel from. I caught a barbel out of the Lugg before I caught one out of the Wye. And over the years, just had some great memories down here. What I used to do is I used to watch John Wilson on a Friday night, and he quite often be fishing the Wensum, the River Wensum, and it reminded me very much of this, a small, you know, not a wide river. And he'd be fishing his mash bread, and I'd come down here and replicate it. And yeah, this is where a lot of my angling skills, I wouldn't say honed, but you know, where you learnt about watercraft and where fish sat in, you know, away from current or in current and things like that. So it's just an absolute, being here is just like, just go to heaven for me. I love it, and I've just been so excited. I walked down here a couple of weeks ago, I bought Monty down here, and I just looked at some of these swims. It's so overgrown. It's proper, like straight out of Crabtree. There's some right overgrown places, proper canopies. I've seen some chub when I've been muching around, and the thing here is the chub are generally quite big. I mean, there's chub of all sizes, but when you have them, they tend to spawn earlier in this river, I was found. And what that means is that by this time of year, midsummer, they're fully recovered, they're in great condition, and they carry some weight as well. So chub fishing can be absolutely brilliant. But I know there's still barbel here, and I don't know how many. I haven't fished it for a couple of years. I certainly haven't done a summer campaign for many years, but I know they're still here. I'd love to catch one. If I don't, whatever, it just takes me back to my childhood, so I'm not bothered, but I would love a barbel. So the way I fish this river is the way I'm going to fish it is the way I always fished it, and I still believe that will be the case. Basically, it's an intimate river. The fish don't like pressure, so usually if you catch a fish out of a swim, it's time to move on. You might have one more cast, you might get two out of a swim, but generally it's quite it doesn't take disruption well. So the plan is to feed up 4 or 5 swims, maybe 6. I possibly won't fish them all, but if I put some bait in each one and then go and visit them quietly once they've settled down, see if you can get a bite out of each swim. Some will be successful, some of them won't, but that's the beauty of it. You keep moving, keep mobile. I mean, I've walked probably 3/4 of a mile to get here. I'm probably going to cover half a mile of fishing. There's at least 6 swims I can think of in half a mile here. This river comes in and out, it bends in and out, meandering. So there's lots of little places to try, and some places where you don't realise until you get down and look at the river and realise that actually, you know, that looks nice. So yeah, so that's the plan. So first job is going to be to get some bait into a few swims, and then we can worry about tackling. So bait for me on here is pretty simple really. Well actually no, I've made it a bit more complicated than I used to, but when I was young, when I used to fish this all the time, there was only 2 baits. It was hemp and meat. I used to put a bed of hemp in, throw some hemp into a few spots with a few bits of meat, and just flick bits of meat over the top, and that would catch your chub and your barbel, no problem at all. Now today I've got those, but I've also plenty of meat already cubed up, but I have bought some pellets as well. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that any barbel that live in this river won't quite enjoy a halibut pellet, just like they do all over the country on every river. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to feed, like I say, 5 or 6 swims, and I'm just going to mix and match. I'm going to feed one with hemp and meat. I've got loads of hemp here, so I'll knock a load of that into a container and then be able to feed some of that. And I'm going to, and other swims I'm going to feed just some. I've just got some 6mm pellets, and I'm just going to, you know, flick a few in and put a bed of that down there. What I don't want to do here is put too much bait in, because I don't think they're used to it. It gets fish down here, sure it does. Some of the swims, you know, that I've looked at, you can see they've been fished, but some haven't. And obviously there's a lot of, you know, let's say tree cover, they've got a lot of cover, and I think if you go and pile a load of bait into those swims, it can spook them out. Now, bear in mind, we're going to leave it a while before we fish each one, you know, we're not going to go feed it and then fish it straight away. So, you know, we can put a bit in. But so I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to alternate, feed one swim with hemp and meat, and another one with just pellets. And I've got some, so literally my hook baits are only going to be meat or pellets, and my feed is only going to be hemp or pellets. And it just doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. You know, that should get us some bites. I would think maybe the chub will take a liking to the meat a bit more, but who knows. But I know that, you know, with what we do on the Y, I know that pellets can be very sort of, they can really single barbel out if you feel there's barbel there. So that's my plan. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to knock, just going to put some hemp into this box here. Probably 3 tins in there, I think. And I'll keep all the juices on it as well. Put a few bits of meat in there as well. And that'll add a nice bit of oil slick to it. Just put a few lumps in there. And I'm going to actually fish these, whereas normally, got their 10mm cubes of meat. What I'm going to do, whereas normally I'd probably punch meat out, you know, and fish like tubes of it, on here I'm just going to fish cubes, like double cubes and what have you. What I don't want to do when I'm fishing, better give some to his lordship. What I don't want to do when I'm fishing is be messing around with too much equipment, you know, sort of like meat punches and different things and having different containers. I literally just want to be dragging this down to the swim, and my rod rest and whatever I need, a net, that sort of thing. Some of the swims I'm going into today have not been fished, and they're a bit overgrown. That's why I'm wearing my waders today, because sometimes the hard part might not be actually catching the fish, it's actually getting them out. But I've got an extra long landing net handle, things like that. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of an adventure. But yeah, so I'm just going to sort of feed hemp and meat like that. So you've just got a mixture of hemp and meat in there, and then I've got some 6mm pellets. I'll just feed these straight out of the bag. The good thing with this river is it's so small, I can throw, even a bad thrower like me, I can throw 6mm pellets to the far bank. So I don't need a catapult or anything for those. So yeah, so that's what we'll do. We'll get these open, and then we'll go and have a wander. Before I set up any gear, we'll go and have a wander and feed a bit into each swim, and I'll show you some of the swims I'm going to fish, because I'll tell you some of them are absolutely gorgeous. I've not seen it for a few years, but I don't remember it looking like this. And the other thing that's here as well is there's a lot of weed cover now, a lot of weed, streamer weed. Now this river always had streamer weed in it, but I don't remember it ever having this much. And according to the scientists, this river has got a higher phosphate level than the Y, so that whole phosphate levels and weed not growing doesn't really add up here. But anyway, that's another subject. And but there are some nice swims where you've got streamer weed, and you could possibly lay some bait, lay a trap in between the streamer weed. So lots to go at. So we're going to get some bait in and show you some of the swims. Right, so I've come to my first swim I'm going to feed, and actually this is the first swim I'm going to fish. This is, say, straight out of Crabtree. Crabtree couldn't have drawn it better if he tried. It's a complete canopy. Can't see it from here, but I've got the GoPro on and I'll show you. Don't want to make too much noise down by the water, so I'm just sort of explaining it here. We've got the tree cover on the far bank, tree cover on this bank, and it crosses over in the middle. It's a complete canopy. Steep bank down to it, but I can get down. And, just a channel down the middle where we can put some bait and see if we can get some fish lined up there. So let's get some bait in. hands and knees here. Look at this for a swim. So you've got quite a deep, you see it's quite boily on the inside there. And then gliding over, and basically all the depth is here. And then it goes down and you've got like some slacker water, some smoother water there going right under, and the river is completely canopied, so you know, loads of cover for fish and some depth. There should be fish here. Hooking them might not be the problem, getting them out might be. But we'll gear up accordingly and see. I mean, it just looks like the sort of place that has got to hold fish. So we'll get some bait in here. So this one I'm just going to put hemp and meat in here. And I'll just put it, I don't really know where to put it really. I don't want to go too close to the cover. Just let feed them out in the flow. Just let that drift down. Those bits of meat will travel a fair way. Just chuck a couple of those in. So I don't want to put too much in. It's got to be fish here, and they won't be used to seeing loads of bait, so maybe like 5 or 6 samples of hemp there. That's going to get down to the bottom. Hopefully they'll settle over it, and when we come back with the rod I'll just be like flicking a few bits of meat in like that. That looks absolutely fantastic. I literally can't wait to get a rod in there. Right, let's go and find another swim. This is swim number 2. Again, we've got a massive tree right across the river. Obviously loads of cover for the fish to sit underneath. This is one I really fancy. And this one has been fished at some stage. You can just tell by the wearing on the bank, and I'm not surprised because it looks absolutely stunning. Look at this tree here. Not a bad depth here either under your feet. So you're just going to be flicking it in and let it drift under thing. And I don't want to put my bait too far down. I'll go hemp with this one, hemp and meat. So I'm just going to put it reasonably close in. Right, now this is where it gets a bit silly now, because as you can see there's no swim here, and it's quite a high bank. But this is an area where I used to catch barbel when I was a kid. In fact, I caught my biggest barbel off the lug. It was £9.2 I think, and it was here in this area. I can't think of the exact spot, but we've got a lot of overhanging trees on the far bank. There's a dead tree in the water. It just looks the right area to put some bait, and maybe catch one later. So I'm going to sort of try and manoeuvre my way in there, and well, if we hook a fish, we'll worry about getting it out later. Oh yeah, look at that. That looks the part, doesn't it? So I think I can make a bit of disruption here now, because I'm not going to fish this for a long time. But what I'll do, see if I can see a pathway down to the water. See, the water's edge is there somewhere. It might be on your backside, Chub. Yeah, I don't want to go any further than that. But I'd be able to land a fish from there. It's whether I can keep it away from trees and stuff. I actually see a little chub there in the flow. Throw a couple of pellets in, see what it does. Yeah, having a look. Anyway, so there's fish there, albeit small fish. So I'll put a bit in here because it'll be a long time till I fish this one. should do for now. They've owned us in that for a while, so there's no point in putting loads and loads in, but the nettles are stinging me as well. Right, so that's the swims all fed. I've actually fed, what have I fed? 5 swims. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 swims I've fed, so I've not been greedy. There's plenty of river to explore. Just every time you walk along you see somewhere new and you think, oh, I fancy that. So I've fed 5 swims and we'll go and give those a go, and I've got others to go out if I need to. But for now, we've put some bait in, so it's a case of just, we've got the gear ready now. So I'll show you the setup I've used. Now, I've gone back to my traditional approach on here, which always was a straight lead approach, or a link ledger approach. The reason for that is, as I said earlier, it's a small, intimate river. Crashing big feeders in is not going to be the way forward. It never was. It did used to work in coloured water, you know, you used to put a big ground bait feeder and catch a chub on big lumps of meat and things like that. But I always felt, for when you were approaching a lot of these swims, how sort of close confined it is and how intimate it is, that, you know, just flicking a little bomb or a little link ledger was the way forward. So what I've gone for, you'll see on there, I've got a three swan shot link on there. Okay, that's running on a paternoster. It's not running or anything like that, it's just fixed, because the key on this river was always getting that balance right. You just get, sometimes it's 2 swan shot, even sometimes it's 1 swan shot, but sometimes 2 swan shots, sometimes 3, sometimes 4. But you get that balance right, so when you cast it out, it sort of comes around the cut and just holds enough. And one real important tip on when you're fishing swan shots as links, just have a little bit of space between each one of them. And what that does, that just grips the bottom. They sort of, because it's gripping in 3 different places opposed to one solid lump of shots that can roll. The 3 of them spread out just grips on the bottom a bit better, and it means sometimes it can be the difference between that bait holding in exactly the right spot, just above a tree or something, or just holding too far upstream. So, you know, I'll be prepared to change those around, to take 1 or 2 off, or even add one on, whatever I want. But basically, that's just on a link, just tied into the line. I've actually tied my hair rig, then tied a, whatever it is, 3-turn water knot, and left the tag long, and then that's on my tag. I'll put that. So basically, there's just 1 knot on the line. Now, I've also used, for my hair rigs, I've used the same material, or the same main line, not the same breaking strain, but very similar. So I've got a 0.28 breaking strain main line, and a 0.26 hook length on the hair. Now, the reason I've not used my usual high, I usually use power line. I've seen no problem with that at all, but I want something, looking at some of the swims we're going to be fishing, I want something that's very durable, because there's a good chance our hook length and our line is going to be rubbing against branches and things like that. So I've gone more for the durable approach. I don't want anything to go wrong. I want to give myself every chance of getting these fish out. Obviously I've got the lower breaking strain on the hair rig, so if something goes wrong and I get snagged up, I'm not going to lose the whole rig. But for me, that just bit of abrasion resistance in that hook length is going to be important today, if we're lucky enough to hook up with anything. And I think as well, you know, it's just really about making sure you might only get 1 chance on these swims, so getting broke isn't really an option. So that's my sort of setup. Like I say, straightforward link ledger, tail of about 3 feet there, and then I've just got a band on there, size 10 hook and a band, and you know, I can thread a piece of meat on there or put a big pellet on, and I can always downsize if I wanted to put smaller pellets on. But that's going to be it basically. I'm going to be fishing with quite a tight clutch, you know, it's not going to be really much room for error here. So that's, you know, that's my setup. I've got a 12-foot rod there, you know, just like with the Avon quiver. I say reel line 0.28. Basically, when I was a kid, it was always, you know, Maxima was all we used, and whereas you'd use 8-pound Maxima on some places where it was really snaggy, on here you'd use 6-pound Maxima direct, because it gave you that durability and the line didn't wear, and you know, so you're maybe giving a little bit on the breaking strain, but you're gaining on the abrasion. So it's about finding the balance, and I think some of these pegs that we've looked at already are really going to test the balance of our equipment. So that's it really. We'll have that rod, we're going to have my landing net and a pole and a rod rest, and my bait, and that's going to be it. That's all I'm going to take down to each swim, because I don't want to be clattering around making lots of noise and disrupting things. We've put the bait in now, we've let it settle, so we're just going to creep in now, see if we can get a bite. Right, everything's in place. Just got to creep in position. Sit on my coat. Do you know, I don't think I've ever been, well, I can't remember being this excited to fish a swim for a first cast. Probably when I was last here as a kid. I'm going to put 2 pieces of meat on the band. Looks like I dropped it all. Right, try that again, shall we? There you go. Right. Just check this clutch is set all on it. Basically not at all. Right. What I mean about the condition of it. You know, it's a summer fish, but it's already got that belly, a little bit missing there, it'll be a bit fatter in the winter. That's £4 now. Absolute beauty. Let's leave that one back. Another bite. Too early then. That was probably a chub, I'd say. Well, just one chub, couple of pulls, just one chub out of there and off, as often is the way, or always was the way with this river. And you've had one bite and made that disruption. It's hard to get another, so I'm not going to spend too long here. I'm going to move on. Could always come back to it later. I'm going to move on because there's so many other swims to look at. Right, so we're on to the second spot now. Now this is a lot more intimate. So I'm going to keep everything nice and quiet. And literally we're just lowering this in. I've only put 2 swan shot on here because I want it to come in underneath this tree here. So I'm going to start it out in the flow and let it bounce round. Little rattle there already. Crikey. Well, that little one wanted that. Look. Absolute little beauty. Obviously hungry. Well, it's great to see those in the river anyway. Fish of that size. But ideally we want your grandfather. Put him back gently. Oh well, it's a bite. Yeah, that's a proper lug chub. I should grab a mouthful of weed trying to dislodge the hook. Yeah, and look at the condition of that. Absolutely beautiful. Got a mark on it. Well, that was a bite out of the blue. I didn't even have a chance to strike the rock with bending rain. Well, it seems to have done the same again. We had one little chub and then we've had a proper chub. We can't get a bite now. And as I say, traditionally that's what this river was like. It used to be a bit, they didn't like the commotion. But to be honest with you, the amount of cover we've got, I'm getting an odd little knock, which might be small fish, but the amount of cover here, you know, you'd think, well, maybe they'd be a bit more confident, but who knows. But anyway, I think we're going to give it a minute and then we'll move on to our next swim. We've not failed at a swim yet, so. that is a bit bigger than a chub. It's a barbel. It's a barbel. Come on, mate. Yes! Get in there. Beauty. Well, there we go, that's in a very similar spot to where I caught my first barbel from. And this is my first, for quite some time, first summer barbel. I can't remember the last summer barbel I had off this river. Not a monster, but look, fighting fit. Not a mark on it. I don't know when the last time that was caught, if ever. That has absolutely made my evening, that has. Sticking his dorsal fin up as well, look. What a show off. Let's put him back and move on. So I wasn't gonna come down here today, but I've come to finish up on this peg. This is a swim that always holds a little bit of nostalgia for me. This was the last place I ever fished with my dad, and okay, no, it was I think it was springtime, and I used to go to school on top of the hill up here, and my school was up there, and we'd arranged that my dad would come down here in the afternoon, bring the fishing tackle down, and then I'd come down straight after school, walk down, meet him down here, and we'd fish, which is what we did. But what I hadn't planned on was that we were sat next to each other. He was sat here, I was sat there somewhere. It was a bit different then, there wasn't so many trees overgrown and what have you. And he proceeded to catch 7 great big chub, all on maggot feeder, just dropping it down the middle here. And I fished above him, I fished bread and then switched to maggots, and I never had a bite. He caught 7 chub to my 0, and he never let me forget it. He ribbed me for months after. And little did we know at that time that that would be the last time we ever fished together. Only three or so years later that he passed away, and well, I suppose I'm glad I didn't know. But it's amazing. So this swim will always have a little bit of, I always come back to it and have a go, and it never disappoints. There's always a bite here to be had, no matter what time of year it is. And I just had such a lovely day today, just, you know, just remembering what it was like to wander the banks here and trying different spots, and then catching that barbel, you know, just a proper nostalgic day. So to finish off here, I think is perfect for me. Can we get one more bite? Out there. Oh, yeah, here we go. Ooh. Well, that didn't take long at all, and I'm not surprised, because it always was a good swim, and I think it always will be. Look at that, absolute brute of a chub. That one's actually a little bit hollow in its stomach, but still 4+ pound now. Could well be £5 in the winter, that. But just another example of how good this river is and just what it can offer. And it's reminding me that I need to come more often. Yes. Ooh. Yes. Another absolute belter. That could be the biggest of the lot. Certainly probably the most perfect. Look at it, not a scale out of place. And I reckon that is the perfect way to end the day. That has just been the most brilliant day. Can't tell you how much I've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed watching this, because as I say, there's a little bit of nostalgia here. You know, this was a special river for me growing up, and it's reminding me it still is. And I've seen so many beautiful swims, and I haven't even scratched the surface. There is swims everywhere, canopies like this. You imagine how many fish are living here, and fish of all species as well. And I think the next thing I want to do is come and have a go with the float gear, see if we can catch some on float. But yeah, what a wonderful day. Hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it inspires you to go and find your local small river, tributaries, whatever they are. You know, all the big rivers have got them. You know, you've got rivers that run into the Severn, the Wye, the Trent. They've all got them, and they've all got fish in them. And I think we overlook them sometimes. We get carried away with the big rivers and big fish, but just so much fun to be had. So like I say, I hope it's inspired you, and look out for part 2 coming soon. Come on, Mons, let's go home.